5, 4, 3, 2,
Manchester
1,
United have
0.
reached the promised land.
Well, good morning, everybody. How are you all doing? It's Thursday. I always do that. I always have to look at the date. I should probably look at that before we go live. But look, Manchester United 1-1 last night against Crystal Palace at Selhurst Park after Palace scored legitimately a once-in-a-lifetime free kick, I would call that. An absolutely outrageously good free kick from Olise. Fair play to him for scoring that. But Manchester United should not have been in that position. That is the main talking point and the main conversation that we're going to be having here this morning with Erik Ten Hag's reaction, which is spot on. Manchester United, we shouldn't have left ourselves in that position where Crystal Palace still could get something out of the game, which led to Casimir getting that yellow card, which now means he's out of the Arsenal game. We're going to react to every single aspect of that game last night. And no, if you want a knee-jerk reaction, you're not going to get that on this channel. Sorry. Last 10 games, 9 wins and a draw. Fucking hell. Yes, please. I'm taking that. But it was a little bit frustrating, I have to admit. Yeah, I mean, of course it was. So I'll run through that. Reaction to the game, reaction to Ten Hag's comments on the mentality and the attitude and the issues that you saw yesterday. We'll speak about Casimir, that yellow card. We're going to speak about the penalty. Well, the lack of the penalty. There's plenty that we'll speak about this morning. And then there's a really important conversation we're having towards the end of the show about Manchester United's new owners. 6th Street, who you might remember, who are heavily involved in Barcelona's economic levers in the summer. Tom Morgan and James Ducker from the Telegraph reporting that they are at the same stage now as Ineos and Sir Jim Ratcliffe in getting the financial documents. I'm going to run through that because that is a very, very dangerous, not dangerous conversation, but shit me, it's like the nightmare owners. I'm going to speak about that later, and that deserves a video in itself this afternoon. Who's down there in the comments? Stephen Anderson, good morning to you. JG, Anthony, Daisy, Josh, I can see you there, and I can see you there. Paula, Brian, Chetan, Ricky, Carl. Who's on Facebook? Nathaniel Steele, how you doing, buddy? We've got Benny John, we've got Darren Lee Traynor, and CJ Shooter. There's loads of you joining in, as always. And as always, what happens when United don't win, there's going to be less of you joining in. There are definitely some fair weather supporters here on United People's TV. But look, all the regulars are down here, and good morning to all of you. Anthony, let me run through the full thing, my friend. All right, it's not as simple as that. I'll run through and I'll cover it all later in the show. Let's start. Where else can you start apart from the game last night? My prediction was a 1-0 gritty win, and it was bang on, other than the fact that, well, Palace got that free kick towards right at the end. Geez, as I said, it doesn't really... Everything that happened last night, from the penalty that wasn't given, that should have been given, to Casimir's yellow after, to all the pressure. We were one kick away from that being 3 points and 10 out of 10 wins in our last 10. It was genuinely an unbelievable free kick. But the focus from Ten Hag after this game is exactly where it should and needs to be, in my opinion. I think he's got it absolutely spot on. Ten Hag's not... If this was Jose Mourinho, for example, after this game, I think we'd be getting... Well, the reaction would have been substantially different. You could see it in Ten Hag's body language when he walked off the pitch. He was just shaking his head. He was a bit frustrated. And this is what Ten Hag said after the game. And this is what I mean about it being spot on. He said, look, we have to invest more to get that second goal. And then we would not be in that situation that a lucky moment costs you 2 points. We were 1-0 up in the second half. We had a lot of space to kill them and go for the second. I never saw that we really went for that second goal. And it's difficult to say why. I've got to criticize my team. Go for the second. Bruno and Rashford on the wings. Garnacho had lots of creativity, speed and power. And McTominay with penetration in behind. Ten Hag is absolutely spot on to call out that lack of what we saw yesterday, a lack of killer instinct. Now, it's not as if we haven't had that lack of killer instinct. It's not as if we haven't had a killer instinct at certain points this season. Nottingham Forest 3-0, Bournemouth 3-0. Man United have put teams away. And it absolutely needed to be a game where that was put away. Now, I've got a picture of Anthony there, but it could be a picture of any attacker. This isn't a witch hunt against Anthony. Although what I would say, I was speaking to Bal about this just before we went live, Bal from the podcast. We both kind of agreed that yesterday was probably one of the first games where I felt like a real frustration with Anthony. I know that quite a lot of you have had frustration with Anthony a little bit earlier than I have. I think he could have scored that lob. That was unlucky. But Anthony, I'm looking forward to Jadon Sancho coming back. That's all I'm going to say. But in terms of the overall comments there from Ten Hag, we needed that second goal. And there's been 3 occasions now where Manchester United, well, 3 occasions that I can remember off the top of my head. There might be more, actually. Southampton away, Leicester away. Both of those games, I believe, ended up being 1-0 wins for United. And it was not a comfortable viewing for the last 20 minutes. United were kind of holding on. United did hold on. United came away from with the 3 points. And that, for me, was the sort of like, okay, good. This United team has showed that we can hold that. Yesterday was another one of those games where Manchester United were holding on towards the end. And it didn't need to be that way. In that first half, man, were we all over Crystal Palace. All over them. They didn't know what to do. They couldn't stop us. We were not creating an incredible amount of chances, but we just had possession and control of that football. It was easy for us in that first half. They had one chance, that outrageous De Gea save, by the way. Outrageous De Gea save. But Ten Hag is right to focus on this as the main takeaway from that game. I will be speaking about the Casimir yellow card. I will be speaking about the McTominay penalty that wasn't given. But focusing on those things isn't going to be something that takes the team forward and improves them, even if you do feel begrudged. And it's something I said, but I'll put a photo up of it now, and we're going to have a full conversation about it later on anyway. That's not the right photo. That's the right photo, but I'll pull this one up, right? That's a penalty. And I will speak about that properly later in the show. But it's not going to take this team forward, and focusing on that is not something that's going to help this team develop. And that pretty much is Ten Hag's focus. As I said, he could get bogged down in it. But I said it on the podcast this week. I said it after the City game. I said, there's no fucking point getting massively, massively pissed off when decisions go against you, or massively, massively happy when decisions go for you. We were fortunate, although I still don't really understand it. According to the law, that was a goal against City. I'd be fuming if it happened against us, but it went for us. Football swings, man. Week to week, there will be decisions that go for you, and there will be decisions that go against you. So there's no point getting bogged down in them or focusing on them as the main talking point. And that's why I'm not going to be speaking about it first and foremost. And that's why I said Ten Hag's focus here on the fact that this United team, there was a mentality and an attitude issue in that last half an hour of that game yesterday. We didn't have enough control of that ball. We allowed Crystal Palace back into the game. Mate, let Crystal Palace, I think they're 20th in the Premier League for goals from open play. They didn't score from open play yesterday. They were relying on set pieces, and we knew that. Foolish from United to give the free kick away there. Foolish from United in the last 20 minutes of that game, really. Julie, yeah, well, my God. That elbow was ridiculous. That elbow was violent. That elbow was a red card. Gary, let me know where you're watching from, buddy. I'll try and give you a shout out. United Don, why isn't Ten Hag speaking about VAR and the decisions this season? He does speak about VAR, but it's not going to be the focus of my attention today. The focus of my attention should be exactly where Ten Hag's is, on the fact that this United team, right here, we are improving. Of course we're improving. We've got 9 wins and 1 draw in the last 10 games. We are improving, but we have to invest more in the second half and to make the win, and then the game is over. Mentality and attitude. There is still space for improvement. Because if Manchester United controlled the second half of the game like we should have yesterday, Crystal Palace don't feel like they're one goal away from getting a result. They're chasing shadows in that game instead of chasing a result. Therefore, their quality and tempo would have lessened a little bit. Therefore, you're unlikely to get Casimir in that situation where the yellow card happened. And I will speak about that next. Of course, if that penalty decision is given for us, it would have been 2-0 and it would have been probably plain sailing. But it wasn't. And it isn't. And it's just frustrating. And I tell you what, it goes to show how far this Manchester United team have come, by the way, that we are frustrated, genuinely frustrated, with our first game in 10 that we haven't won. And we didn't even lose. We drew. 10 games undefeated, I think, since the World Cup break. And we're frustrated. That really goes to show how much we have improved this season. Kevin, let me know where you're watching from as well, buddy. Nice to see you there joining the members gang. But look, this is what I mean. The focus of Manchester United this season, right, is the top 4. I know that we're all getting excited. I'm getting excited. You're getting excited. We're all getting excited about Manchester United being in a potential title race. And I still think that's on. And I still think, well, this game on Sunday is huge. Game on Sunday is huge as to whether that or not that can be a genuine title contender run. But look at where Manchester United are in the league. If all of you in the comments, tell me what your expectations were before the season, I know full well that 99% of you would be saying a top 4 position and ideally a cup run, maybe a trophy. That would be an ideal situation for you. Right now, Manchester United are 6 points clear of Spurs in 5th. We're in the League Cup semi-final against Nottingham Forest. We're still in the Europa League, see what goes on against Barca. We're still in the FA Cup, what's going on against Reading. This season is completely on course, and that game result yesterday doesn't change that. But it does highlight this, that Ten Hag is right to call out that. Manchester United should not have been in a position where an absolute worldie free kick in the 90th minute took 2 points away from us. Right? Going down here, I said top 5 this year, says Samra. Hoping for top 4, realistically top 6. I think I said top 6 unless we improved in terms of the transfers that we made. 5th, best case top 4. 5th and playing good football again. Look, top 4 is our ambition. Maybe top 4 is our aim this year. It's not our ambition as a football club. It's our goal for this season. And we are absolutely on course for that. But Ten Hag, as I said, will be taking that mentality problem that he sees and taking it away. Now, I've seen someone in the comments here before the stream went live saying, oh, the mentality and the attitude, that's up to Ten Hag. Well, it's almost like we've won 9 bloody games in a row. It's there. But in game situations, mentalities and attitudes can change and ebb and flow. And I think last night was one of them. Just in that last 20 minutes, we decided to sort of ease off. Look, if we're being completely honest, Rashford had a pretty off game. Anthony wasn't particularly effective at all on the right-hand side. Bruno Fernandes was okay. I'll speak about Weghorst in his debut. I think Weghorst did okay for his debut. It wasn't a debut that wasn't incredible, didn't blow anybody away. But given that he's only been at the club for 4 days, I thought he did all right. This is what Ten Hag said about VAR. This is what Ten Hag said about the decisions. And he's so spot on, man. You have to accept the decisions from VAR from the refs. Because I look in the mirror. I look to my team. I look to my own managing and coaching. And I say, invest more for the second goal. And you avoid the situations where you are dependent on the referee. Which is exactly what the main takeaway from this needs to be. We can get bogged down and just be angry and foaming at the mouth and the fact that we didn't get that penalty, which should have been a penalty. We didn't get that red card for the elbow on Martinez. Well, that absolutely should have been looked at. Then there's going to be other fans that are saying that Casimiro's tackle was dangerous in itself. But yeah, it's about looking inwards. It's about looking at yourself and going, right, okay, how do we avoid being in that situation again? It's absolutely the right focus from Ten Hag. And it's not criticizing for the sake of criticizing. It's not, there's no hyperbole. There's no exaggeration from Ten Hag. It's just, yeah, don't put yourselves in that situation again. You can be pissed off about it all you want. If you score a second goal before those last 15 minutes, it's a different game of football. You didn't. That's on you. So stop blaming the ref as much as you like to. Look at yourselves. Sammy saying some you get, some you don't. That was my reaction. That's why I didn't find that's what pissed me off about that media furor last week about Bruno's goal against City. Just like, that's what happens in football. There are some decisions that go for you and there are some decisions that go against you. I actually said it on the podcast. I was like, you can expect at some point soon a decision to go against United to balance it all out. I didn't expect it was going to come that quick. Why get into a position where it's possible, then not trying because you expected to? I don't know what that means. There's a confusing point there. Look, obviously, the draw was gutting. That's what I would call it. It's gutting. It's not devastating. It's not terrible. It's not, oh my God, problems. It's gutting that we dropped 2 points in the way we did it. But arguably not as gutting as this. Casimir getting the yellow card. Now, I guarantee there's going to be questions down. There's going to be, oh, I told you Casimir shouldn't play. Oh, Ten Hag. Oh, Ten Hag made the right decision to start Casemiro. Don't come up with Captain Hindsight here, ladies and gents. He was arguably flawless again in that game before that yellow card, before that moment of madness right at the end, which kind of made it all the more surprising. Shouldn't really have been put in that position, but Casemiro, Ten Hag spoke about it after, and he said, yeah, it was an instinctive thing. It was an instinctive thing. You know what Casemiro is like. Casemiro knows to take those yellow cards to stop teams going forward when his team needs him to. He's that sort of player. And it is, look, Steve McLaren was all of us when that went in. That photo did make me laugh this morning, I have to be honest. Steve McLaren sinking into his chair like, oh, no, please, no. That's kind of what it felt like. But you know what? Again, I really fucking like, I like Anthony. I really love Ten Hag as United's manager. I find myself agreeing with him so often about what he says there, like, in terms of look at yourselves, and what he said after that, Casemiro, yellow, he said this. Casemiro is a really important player for us and a reason we're in this position. But last time, we beat Arsenal without Casemiro. We need to do it again. And I'm looking at you, boy. I'm looking at you. I've seen this on plenty of people speaking about it. In fact, I'm going to go up. I'll probably leave a poll about this. I think this will be an interesting one. I'm going to leave a few options down here because I've seen people say some mad things. I want to see what you think to this poll. Right, let me add a couple more options. Right. There. Who do you think should be coming in to midfield for Manchester United against Arsenal to try and replace Casemiro? Which is not possible, right? It is not possible to replace Casemiro. What's the best case scenario? There's a few that are laid in front of you. The obvious one is McTominay coming in. Remember that McTominay, before Casemiro came in, he had those where we went on 4 wins after losing to Brighton and Brentford, including Liverpool and Arsenal. McTominay played in midfield there. It's he's the obvious choice. And what I would say here, right, before I speak about the other options, because there's people suggesting that Martinez could play there. And yeah, he could play there. Of course he could. You could. Some people are trying to go crazy and left field and say, oh, play Luke Shaw there. And I'm like, okay, well, let's not get too excited just because he plays centre-back. You could play Fred there. Of course you could. The one thing I would say, before I start looking at the poll results, if it's not McTominay or Fred, and it's someone else, that will have a damaging impact on the mentality of McTominay or Fred, simply being completely and utterly overlooked to play Martinez out of position. It's not going to happen. That wouldn't be, in my opinion, that wouldn't be good management. That would create a little bit of a rift between Ten Hag and McTominay or Fred. I think Fred will start. Fred, oh, geez. As soon as Fred fouled Olise, I was like, oh, my God, has Fred got a yellow as well? I was like, please, for the... No, he didn't. I'm going to see what you're saying in the polls down here. And yeah, that's what I mean. Like, nearly 400 votes, and 38% of you are just saying Martinez. Now, trust me, I love Martinez. I don't think that would be good management. I think you're overlooking the impact that would have on McTominay's mental approach to the rest of the season. Fred, I think, is playing anyway. I think it's going to be Eriksen. I think it's going to be a similar front four as to what played against City. It'll be Rashford on the left. It'll be probably Bruno on the right. It'll be Fred playing in midfield, Eriksen a little bit further forward. It's whoever partners Fred in that midfield, because Fred hopefully will be doing a job on Odegaard in a similar way that he did it on De Bruyne. We got the blueprint. But look, trust me, I love Martinez, but I think that would just be that would be an odd bit of management. And if I was McTominay, it would piss me off. It would create a rift. And remember that people just want to write McTominay off and not remember how good he was in those 4 games after Brighton and Brentford. 4 wins in the bounce, and he was in there. And people were like, what is going on with McTominay? I think McTominay starts there. But judging by the poll results here, there is no result. It's absolutely down the middle. Martinez, Fred, and Martinez with 35%, Fred with 31%, and McTominay with 31%, and 3% for sure. I thought that was a wild call. Scotty is a box-to-box. Yeah, that is where he's playing better, Paul. I would agree with that. But ultimately, Manchester United are going to have to make a makeshift midfield now. It wouldn't be that makeshift, but we're going to have to try and replace Casimir somehow. I don't think that will be Fred directly, because Fred is too energetic. Fred is better when he's moving. He's hustling. Fred's like a midfield hustler. He's not somebody who can just sit there and screen and protect. It's a different style of play. It's completely different. And McTominay doesn't really do that either. I mean, he can do that, but it's not the natural, I believe. It's not the natural part of his game. But in my opinion, I don't even think it's a question. It's McTominay. McTominay will play there instead of Casemiro, even if you don't like it. Ten Hag has built something inside this squad. He's got a squad of... Now, the quality of the squad is not there, but the players, they all seem to be on the same wavelength, and they all seem to be coming in. Look, McTominay, I thought, came on and did a decent job yesterday, and he definitely did win that penalty. But I'm going to read a few of your comments down here. Paul, you're hoping that Fred on Odegaard does a job. Harry, you're saying the same thing. It will happen. We saw it against De Bruyne, and it was a big reason as to why that first half against City, they couldn't do anything, because De Bruyne just did not have that space. If you look at how Arsenal play, everything is revolving around Odegaard. You've got Thomas Partey just controlling and shepherding that midfield in front of the defence, screening, getting the ball to Odegaard as soon as he possibly can. That will be down to Bruno. That will be down to Rashford and either Weghorst or Martial to sort of try and cut that space out for Partey. But it will probably be down to Fred to really try and limit Odegaard's capabilities of influencing the game. And it will be McTominay's job to screen that back four and try and give that extra protection in the same way that Casemiro does. He won't be able to do it on the same level as Casemiro, right? Lee, you're saying it shows how much we need another world-class mid. We can't really leave it to Cass every week. No, Lee, we can't. But that is what happens when you're at stage one of the rebuild. Remember that we are stage one with 6 months in. It's just that we've got a little bit excited, let's be completely honest, and we've got a little bit ahead of ourselves because we just won 9 in a row. So all of a sudden, the expectations kind of shift and change. But ultimately, this squad as it is, we're a very strong starting 11. There are some players that can come in and out, but the strength isn't there in the second 11 yet. And you won't get that until Ten Hag has had like 2, 3, 4 transfer windows. Once he's got those, all of a sudden you probably won't be looking at McTominay as the backup to Casimir. You won't be looking at, I don't know who the backup to Eriksen is. I don't really think we've got one directly, technically, Fred, but they're not the same sort of player. Once we've got another couple transfer windows under our belt, we'll be able to cope when we take players like Casimir out of our team. At this point, we can't. In the same way that Arsenal, if Thomas Partey gets an injury, they're screwed. You take your best players out of your team, you're always going to be slightly inferior. Could do with Tielemans right now, says Gary. Well, Tielemans isn't exactly a Casimir replacement, but I imagine Tielemans is going to be a much in-demand player. But look, let's speak about that point from last night, because you can't not, right? I didn't think it was appropriate for us to just have a moan at the start of the show. I thought it was much more important to run through Ten Hag's comments. But that penalty decision was absolutely outrageous. And I don't know whether you can let me know in the comments below whether you think I've got my red tinted glasses on here. But McTominay, clearly, it's not like a, in my opinion, I don't think it's like a judgment call. When you watch it back, he clearly touches the ball. Was it Edwards? I can't remember. I think it was that was a defender who was making his debut, the American one. Clearly touches the ball. Defender's leg comes across, cuts him out, and it doesn't even go to the monitor. How does it not go to the monitor? It's madness. It's madness. And probably, yeah, it was Richards down in the comments. Yeah, I thought it was. Probably if that decision for United doesn't go our way against City, that's just given as a penalty without question. It feels like they're trying to like balance something out there. It was really, really odd, man. Really odd that didn't go for us. I'll be completely honest. It's just outrageous. It's one of those proper, Stonewall. That is an absolute Stonewall penalty. And yeah, Ten Hag could completely and utterly focus on that. That's not the right one. But he's trying to take a bit of a pragmatic approach, saying, look, you just kind of got to accept it. And yeah, we will accept it and we will move on. But that's what happens in football, man. One week you're going to get a decision for you, the other week you're going to get something against you. But what is the point in VAR? There's so many questions and decisions like this. Like, what is the point in VAR? Like, the monitor's right there. Go and have a fucking look at it. It's like they pick and choose. Really odd, man. Really, really weird. But yeah, we'll have to move on from that. And we'll have to move on from that result yesterday. But yeah, this is what I said after. I said, I'm going to assume, just fairly assume, that there's going to be like 96 hours of intense scrutiny as to why that decision wasn't given. No, I don't think there will be. You remember the reaction to the offside goal against City? Oh my God. I think Sky Sports released like nearly a 20-minute YouTube video about it. It was spoken every day on TalkSport, on Sky, everywhere about the decision. Nah. Won't be spoken about at all. It's an odd one. It's a very, very odd one. It took VAR to decide 3 seconds to decide it wasn't a pen. Mate, it's strange. Mate, it's very, very odd. It's really, really... Is that true? Josh is still getting talked about today? Fucking hell. My word. But look, let's kind of move on to some positives from the game, because I'm not going to pretend that was a game where there weren't any positives. I'll speak about Weghorst. We can have a little conversation about Wambersacker as well. What was your opinion on Weghorst's debut? I only joined the club, what was it, like 4 days ago, I think it was, and came straight into the starting 11. I nearly got the team spot on. I got 10 out of 11 correct. I didn't expect Varane to be in there, but Varane looked okay. Got through 90 minutes, no problems. Weghorst, I thought it was a solid debut, right? We expected him to have that pressing side to his game, and he definitely brought that pressing side to the game. I do think Martial offers slightly similar. I wouldn't... He does. I mean, he definitely does. But Weghorst, for me, I was impressed. I thought his link-up play was really good. He had 2 or 3 really nice first touch passes to sort of link up and keep the flow of the game going. He got himself in good positions. It was a nice run away from Bruno, dragging 2 defenders for Bruno's goal. I thought that was smart. I think he did okay, man. And it bodes well, I suppose, for Arsenal on Sunday. Martial was not in the squad at all to face Crystal Palace. So we're going to have to presume that he's not going to be 100% fit for Arsenal. And lo and behold, here we are having conversations about Martial's fitness again. Again and again. Again and again and again and again. Again and again and again. Again, again. Did I mention again? I'm bored of it. It doesn't matter. I'd be bored of it if we were speaking about Mbappe and he was at United and he had this many issues. You just you cannot rely on a player who has that many fitness issues. It does not matter how good they are. If this happened to Bruno Fernandes, I would be having the same conversations about Bruno Fernandes. But Weghorst, I think it was a decent enough debut. It bodes well. And I look forward to seeing him just settling in and getting even more settled as a Manchester United player, because I think he'll just continue to improve. Let's go down here. There was a super chat from someone. Dave, you're saying that he was excellent in his pressing. I think he was. Tyler, you're saying Weghorst did what we have wanted from Martial. And that's it. I think Martial does do an element of what Weghorst was doing last night. Maybe we were just focusing a little bit more on Weghorst because it was his debut, trying to be fair and balanced here. But I liked him. Gary, you're saying he was nervous, focusing too much on taking a touch and laying it off. I think the first game... No, but I think that was quite good, Gary. I was liking it when he was taking that touch. He was dropping deep. He was focusing on making sure that whenever he got the ball, he got it to a teammate. And as a number 9, as a target man, that's kind of one of the biggest things you got to do. He wasn't trying to be too clever. He wasn't trying to twist and turn past his player. He did the fundamentals. He did the basics right against Crystal Palace. And I think that really is a decent enough start from him, right? So let's see what comes next for him. And I'm looking forward to seeing, hopefully, what he can do against Arsenal. Now, let's go back to the vote. You've got nearly 700 votes here now. And we've got Martinez you put down as replacing Casimir. As I said, I think that would be a poor bit of management from Ten Hag. He's got to use his... McTominay might not be the best, might not be perfect, but he's shown this season that he can do it. We were speaking about the improvement of McTominay. McTominay goes in that team, and if it isn't him, I'll be surprised. Who's that? JVD, thank you very much, dude. You're gifting 5 memberships. Look, even on a sad day. Sad day? Hey, good. That just goes to show how far we've come, man. It's a sad day when we've drawn 1-1 away at Crystal Palace. It's not an easy game, man. It's not an easy game. I put it right up there with Wolves away. Palace away is not easy. But it's because we won 9 in a row. But thank you very much, dude. You gifted 5 memberships. The Real C, Thomas, Michael, Min, and Ed Fish. You are the lucky 5. Say thank you very much to the man himself, JVD. And look, there's 1,100 of you watching. Look at that. Nearly 2,000 less than was watching the last couple of days. Some fair weather United fans out there. We're only going to be speaking or coming on here after a win. But look, geez, if I had done that, then United People's TV wouldn't exist after the last few years that we've had. It's been rough. It's been rough. But make sure you drop a like on the video. But look, just as much as we can talk about Weghorst, and Ten Hag did. He said, look, less training, no games, couple of days here. But he did quite well in all of his elements. I believe that's exactly what he did. Did quite well. Pat on the back. Well done. Got your debut out of the way. Let's see what you can do against Arsenal. As Gary said there, the more he plays, I think the more he'll come out of his shell. Last night, I think his main focus was don't fuck up. Don't make any major mistakes. That was his focus for game 1. After that point, I think he'll get better and better. It was a decent enough debut. But how good? How good there? First of all, how good was that tackle from Wambersacker at the end? Outrageous. Have you seen the reaction from Zaha? He's like, as soon as I looked over my shoulder and I saw it was Wambersacker, I thought, no. Because he's the only player that he knows who can do that scoop tackle. Somehow, with his left leg, getting it round. I don't know how he does it. Honestly, his legs going all sorts of weird angles. That's why he's known as Spider-Man. But Wambersacker again yesterday. I've done a video on him early this week, so we don't need to do a separate video on Wambersacker again. But Wambersacker's improvement has been fantastic, man. And for me, the biggest single thing about Wambersacker and the improvement of Wambersacker is his first touch and the body shape for his first touch. He's receiving the ball now in similar positions as to how he received it before, but because of the way his body is positioned, his first touch is so much more positive and progressive, and it opens a space up that he can then go forward, sometimes doing a 1-2 with somebody else, taking a little dribble. It's the small things that are making the difference to his game. And I think that's just about understanding attacking positioning, understanding exactly how you've got to be shaped when receiving the ball. And that's going to be coming through good coaching and hard graft from Wambersacker in understanding that part of the game. He's got the capabilities in terms of, well, physically. Whether he's actually got the capability of turning that into what he's doing is good. A couple of decent crosses, Wambersacker. Yeah, and it was back at Crystal Palace as well. So it would have been a really important game for him. More than quite a few of those players. But yeah, it's fantastic. And Sam, you're down there in the comments. I was going to do a video on that yesterday, but I decided not to. I will do a video on that a little bit later when I feel it's appropriate. But Wambersacker is just another example of a player that Ten Hag has really improved, from Luke Shaw to Scott McTominay. You might not argue with that now, but he certainly was at the start of the season. Marcus Rashford, Diogo Dalot, Wambersacker. Wambersacker, man. Really, really impressive. I can see some comments down here. Where is it? Where was that one there? Rudy, you're saying this. And I would say, where is it? That one there? I've already spoken about Anthony earlier in the stream, and I'll speak about him in a little bit now. I think my natural position for new signings is to give them more leeway. I don't know at what point that switches. Is it 6 months into the player's first season? Is it 3 months in? Is it 9 months in? Is it after a first season? I don't know. I think everybody's going to have their own positions on when they feel, right, okay, I'm not going to give him as much leeway anymore. But Anthony has to, I think the thing that is probably frustrating fans the most is you're going from game to game to game, and Anthony's kind of doing the exact same thing. It's not like he's trying to skip past his man, and he's not quite doing it. Because I think everybody kind of would forgive that. Anthony really is playing quite one-dimensionally. And he's also not... The thing that he's really good at is cutting inside on his left foot to the edge of the box and firing in a shot. And I think he got into that position maybe once yesterday. I think in the first half, nobody had more passes into the final third than Anthony. So I'm not saying he's completely and utterly irrelevant, because he's not. But I think Anthony should be expecting more of himself. Ten Hag will definitely be expecting more of Anthony. And we've got Jadon Sancho, who is about to come back into this squad. He's returned to first team full training this week. I don't know whether he's going to be involved against Arsenal. My gut instinct is telling me he won't be, and he'll come back probably for the Nottingham Forest game. But Anthony, because we've got Sancho coming back in, there really is no... hey, look, I'm not here writing him off, and don't try and suggest that I'm writing him off. It's not any... But the criticism is fair and just when it's aimed towards helping a player improve. I'm not just here throwing him under the bus and saying he's got no chance. He's got every chance. He's clearly a quality player. But there will come a point where it's unsustainable for him in the Premier League if he really does just remain as one-footed as he is. You need that dynamism. Of course, there are going to be isolated examples like Iron Robin, people who come out. There are certain individuals who are one-footed and they just go on to be incredible. Ah, man, it cracks me up. I think agenda is probably one of the, in terms of football, online football supporting, I think it's probably one of the most misused words is agenda. Because simply commenting on someone, even if it's a vague comment, all of a sudden becomes an agenda. And I've got no agenda. You know what my one agenda is? My agenda is what is good for Manchester United. What is the best for Manchester United? My agenda revolves fully around what is best for the club. Now, Anthony, I know that he'll want to improve. Any Dutch supporters, any Ajax fans in the comments, you know full well that Anthony had more than that. Anthony had more than that, Ajax. Gabor, right, 1 second down there. Come on, you're better than that. This community is not full of trolls, not full of triggers. Don't do that shit. We're better than that. We're adults here in the comments. If you want to do that, go and be a kid on social media somewhere else. I can't be bothered with that. But look, how good was that save from David De Gea last night, by the way? Probably one of the best saves you'll see this season. Utter fingertip. Ultimately didn't really matter. I saw somebody yesterday getting pissed off that David De Gea kicked it, and then the ball came back, and that led to the free kick that Elise scored from. But look, let's go back to a couple more comments here on Anthony after I got roped in. Giblix, you're saying, look, I'm an Ajax fan. Anthony does have more, but fans claiming they expected a finished product to arrive at United. These people need to learn to manage their expectations better. I don't think anybody expected a finished product, Giblix. And I've said this before, and I absolutely maintain this. If we paid you what he was worth, which was probably around 50 million, right? We paid double what he was worth because we got roped into it. Fair play to you for making that happen. Then I think the expectations would be a little bit less. You're saying you're also an Ajax supporter, and he definitely has more to bring to the table. It feels like I might need to do a bit. I'll probably get slapped down for copyright. But I'd love to do a video saying, look, this is what Anthony did at Ajax. Here's him taking a player on. Here's him taking a player on. Here's him dribbling past 3 players. Here's him dribbling past 2 players. He's got it in his locker. It's down to Ten Hag to coach that out of him, and to Anthony, from a confidence perspective, to bring that out of himself. It's both of them. Dave, have you got an agenda against an agenda? I think I do have an agenda against an agenda. But look, I still absolutely believe that Anthony will progress and get better, and I hope he will, and I think he will. There's a really, really important talking point that we have to have here this now, so make sure you don't please turn off. Please stick around for this, because Ineos and Sir Jim Ratcliffe were the first people to officially formalise their interest in buying Manchester United. We know that. That's happened this week. And we know full well there are going to be other companies, investment firms, Emirates, trying to buy the club. This was an article that was released by Sam Wallace and Tom Morgan from the Telegraph yesterday, that 6th Street will be ready to invest in Manchester United. Let me read through the article. Let me read through the comment that 6th Street have posted on Twitter yesterday after receiving a barrage of abuse from United fans. But the first thing I want to say here is this is the worst case scenario for Manchester United if this happens. We're speaking purely from a hypothetical perspective, but this is the worst thing that we could hope for. US investor 6th Street, that has been involved in major refinancing projects with Barcelona and Real Madrid, has signaled it could be ready to invest in Man United. The New York investment firm that has been critical to the financial reorganization of the 2 Spanish clubs has accepted an invitation to analyze details of United's financial performance. An invitation. It's an interesting one. I'm sure that article was changed since last night, because I'm pretty sure I didn't say that last night. Now, something that's happened since then was Manchester United fans found 6th Street on Twitter and went absolutely nuts on them. And then, curiously, 6th Street said this. They came out and said, as part of our sports investing franchise, 6th Street maintains active dialogues with top organizations across multiple sports and around the world. But at this time, 6th Street is not looking to buy Manchester United and is not in any active discussions to do so. So either Sam Wallace and Tom Morgan have got it wrong, or Sixth Street are lying. It's one of those two. And it's a strange one. As I said, I'm reading this now with you live and direct. I don't remember that word being invited as accepted an invitation. I'm pretty sure the wording of that paragraph has been changed overnight. The reason I'm saying it's particularly bad and why this would be worst case scenario, and I think this deserves and warrants a video going out at lunchtime today. If Sixth Street were to invest in Manchester United, not buy Manchester United, which I think is kind of a curious, you might be able to focus on the terminology here, because Sixth Street here are talking about buying Manchester United. They're not going to be buying Manchester United in full. Buying and investing, and I think you've just said it down there, buying and investing are two different terms. They are two different terms. If Sixth Street, again, hypothetical situation here, if they were to come in and invest in Manchester United, that would mean that the Glazers retain ownership of the club, that they would find somebody to give them the money that they don't want to spend, and they would just therefore sit in the background as like investors in the shadows, taking money out of United and using us as simply a tool to make money. That's worst case scenario. Sam Wallace and Tom Morgan, Sam is a chief football writer for the Telegraph, knows what he's talking about. For them to do an article of that scale and be wrong would, in my opinion, be a surprise. And also, I'm pretty sure they sign an NDA when they actually do go to that stage. When they accept it, I suppose they don't actually, because Ineos confirmed it with an official statement. Let's see what else they're saying down here. There you go. Look, Telegraph Sport understands that Sixth Street would not be willing to undertake a full takeover of Manchester United. This one's interesting, right? And I think it deserves its own video for lunchtime today. I'm going to cover it from all aspects. I'm not going to say it's utterly and completely true. I'm just saying this is the nightmare situation. This is why it's so important for everybody, if you still can, get down to the protests that the 58 are doing. Help them, because we are at a critical point. There will be, whether or not, right, we can argue all day long about whether Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos or Dubai or Saudi or Apple or Amazon, whether any of them would be the best new owner of Manchester United. And there's a fair argument for all of it. But you know who's the fucking worst owner of Manchester United? Is another version of the Glazers. That's what this is. In fact, it's worse. It's the Glazers being propped up by someone else. It complicates it, it convolutes it, and it's terrible. This is the worst case scenario. So that's what struck a little bit of struck a chord with me yesterday. But the game was on, so I couldn't do a video on it. I feel like I want to do one today because I don't really want to. After that game yesterday, I don't really feel like too much scrutiny is required. I think Ten Hag's absolutely spot on when he's talking about the investment in that second goal, getting that killer instinct. We've had that killer instinct in other games before, as I said. Just wasn't there yesterday. Yesterday was one of those games where we're just going to have to shrug our shoulders and say, you know what? Let's be completely honest. That game wasn't even scheduled for yesterday. It got scheduled like 9 days ago and shoved in between City and Arsenal. It was a tough situation. We nearly came away with it scot-free. And instead, it ended up being a 1-1. And Casimir got a yellow. And he's now suspended for Arsenal. Some might argue that's the worst case scenario, but losing the game would have been worst case scenario. I'm going to go down here and read a couple of your comments out. I think it's important. Jonathan, you're saying we're making good progress under Ten Hag. That's absolutely, that is. Absolutely. Alex, yeah, you're right. I know that the NDA will be on actually the confidential information that they can't release when they read those private documents. But yeah, I personally would be surprised if Sam Wallace and Tom Morgan have got that spectacularly wrong. So I'll be interested to see if that's going to get followed up on. Let me see if there's any more comments from you down here about the game yesterday, about anything. Rudy, no offense to Jesse Lingard. I'm not going to listen to an hour and a half of him speaking. I don't care enough. What am I going to gain from that? I might gain a little bit of insight, but I don't think I am going to gain enough that it warrants an hour and a half of my time. Might be unfair of me to say that. Maybe if I go on a walk or something, I could listen to it. Corey saying it's a must win on Saturday, puts that statement down. Man, I'm looking forward to my starting 11 for the Arsenal game is going to go out tomorrow. That's going to be a big one. You're going to make sure you tune in on that. I'll be here tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. with the live show. It's Friday. It's map day. Make sure you drop a like on the video, everyone. It wasn't the best result last night. It nearly was. But ultimately, we just fell short. But as Ten Hag correctly focuses on, let's not talk about the refereeing decisions. Let's not talk about the penalty that wasn't. Let's talk about the fact that we were 1-0 up in the 90th minute when we should have and could have been 2, maybe even 3 goals up if we went for it. That's the bigger issue from yesterday. That's a mentality thing that Ten Hag has to still get into these players. And that's what he's going to be working on and focusing on ahead of the Arsenal game. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for, is it JVD? I think it was, for the 5 gifted memberships. And thank you all for your super chats and all of your support. And I'll see you soon.